is Thursday. Yeah, I heard one enthusiastic. Woo! Yeah, that means tomorrow's Friday, and then it's the weekend, and then it's finals. So I know. It's pretty tough. You're welcome for that. Anybody here doing an honors thesis? Yeah? How are you feeling right now? Not that good? Yeah, I remember the couple of weeks before I handed in my dissertation, I not the happiest moments of my life, but the beauty is, there's all this stress and all this buildup, and then you're done at some point, and then you get this feeling of, I'm done, and that feeling is pretty awesome. So just think about that, right? So we have 2 more lectures of market failures, and then the last lecture I do experiments. Not on you, but you get to participate. So I'm going to convince you that everything we've done this semester actually works, right? So we can all tell stories, but if they have nothing to do with reality, they're just that. They're stories. And social science aims to be more than stories. It aims to be a framework to explain how humans make decisions, right? So this is a pretty fun lecture. You'll score a lot of chocolate. All right. Any questions? The answer key. Yes, I know. Right now, you think your life is crazy? If you're good at administration, don't tell anyone, all right? Or take on an administrative task and fail at it spectacularly the first time so nobody asks you to do stuff again. So I've made the mistake of being good at it, so there's too much stuff to do. But I failed to give you the answer key for the midterm, but I also asked you to appeal by today. If there were grading mistakes, I'm going to give you until Thursday, right? So I have the answer key. I just have to scan it and put it there so you can appeal your midterm 2 grade until Thursday. No, today's Thursday. Tuesday, sorry. Correct. Tuesday, you can give me your regrade request. Any other questions? You'll get lots of old finals. You'll get answers to problem sets. You'll get lots of materials. I'll have a schedule of review sessions for you. I'll have details about the final, but we'll do that next lecture or so. All right. What have we done? We now know about price discrimination. We know about first degree, second degree, third degree price discrimination. First degree is the vendor charges you whatever your marginal willingness to pay is, right? They can't charge you more than that because then you wouldn't buy it. So they're charging you the exact maximum what you're willing to pay for that incremental unit. The outcome there was the essentially efficient outcome, right? We're producing where price equals marginal cost, which is also the perfectly competitive outcome, and that maximizes welfare. The bummer here, of course, was that all consumer surplus goes to producers, so this is efficient but not equitable. The good thing about perfect price discrimination to do, it's impossible or next to impossible to do in real life. So second degree or second order price discrimination is quantity price discrimination. It's the buy one, get one half off, or buy one, get $10 off the next one, where producers essentially charge a certain price for the first set of units, and then for higher quantities you charge lower prices. So what we see there is they capture a whole bunch of consumer surplus from consumers, but what we're also seeing in the setting that I showed you, it's actually inefficient, right? So the issue here is that quantity price discrimination, if you compare it not to the perfectly competitive outcome, but to just a single monopolist charging a single price in the market, so if you compare monopolist to a second degree price discriminator, the price discriminator may actually lead to a more desirable outcome than just having a regular old monopolist operating in the market. So we showed that. Then we did multi-market, which is third degree or third order price discrimination, where compared to the second degree, where you're just discriminating based on how much people buy, but you're not discriminating based on characteristics, are they students, seniors, or faculty. But third degree or third order, you actually split consumers into groups. So this can either be done by space, right, different spatial areas, or by observable characteristics that you can verify. So what we saw there is that the price discriminator just acts as a monopolist in each of those markets. We can't really say whether that's better or worse than a single monopoly price because that really depends on the setting. So that was price discrimination. Pretty cool model. Then we moved on to asymmetric information, where we looked at adverse selection and moral hazard. And what I did there is talk a little bit about informational asymmetry. It's usually the issue where if one side of the market knows something that the other side doesn't know, we get to an inefficient outcome, right? So you know something, for example, that crazy guy that sat next to me on the airplane, the person at the car rental counter didn't know that while he rented his 750 IL, that he was one of these crazy Americans that just came to Germany to race this car around a racetrack. So he knew something about his type that the rental agency didn't know. So it was clear asymmetric information. So we talked a little bit about adverse selection and moral hazard and what those are, and close with this lemons problem. Now, I've had a lot of emails and a lot of office hours visits about I didn't get this lemons problem. So I will briefly just draw you that picture again to make sure we're clear on that. I think it's a beautiful model, right? And if I do things repeatedly, right, take note. That's all I'm saying. So what happens on the demand side in the market for lemons, there's a lot of different buyers, essentially as many buyers as you could think about for used cars. They're willing to pay $1,000 for a lemon, which is a crappy car, if they know it's a lemon, right? So there's a sticker on the lemons that actually identifies them as lemons. They're willing to pay $2,000 for a good quality used car, non-lemon, if they know it's a good car. So they're paying more if they can tell good from bad. If they can't tell, and they assume there's a 50-50 chance that your car is a lemon or not, what they're doing is they're calculating the expected value of the good they're going to get. So there's a 50% chance that it's worth $1,000, so 0.5 times 1,000, plus there's a 50% chance it's a good car, 0.5 times 2,000, the sum of the two is $1,500. So if you can tell, you pay either 1,000 or 2,000. If you can't tell, you're willing to pay 1,500. So that's the setup of the problem. Sellers, there's 1,000 of each good. The lemon sellers are willing to accept $750 for a lemon. The good car sellers are willing to accept $12.50, and in a later example, $17.50. So just quickly redrawing my lemons equilibrium. My lemons equilibrium looks as follows. Okay. That's a Q right here. Okay, let's draw the supply for lemons. For those of you who've seen the movie Cars 2, it's all about lemons. I love that movie. So use it as fieldwork for economics. Watch that movie. Good cars. Okay, so what does the supply for lemons look like? So if we're saying 1,000 is 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 1,000. So the supply for lemons simply is any price above $7.50. The sellers of lemons or owners of lemons are willing to sell those lemons. Okay, so supply for lemons is 0, below $7.50. And then they're basically willing to sell all possible cars, right? They'll take whatever money that consumers are willing to pay at prices above $7.50. So this is my supply of lemons. For the good cars, it's for now $12.50. Okay, so you've got to pay owners of good cars more money in order for them to sell it. So they're willing to sell 0 below $12.50, and thereafter, they're willing to sell all their cars at whatever money they can get. But you've got to pay them at least $12.50. So that's supply for good cars. Let's dash this thing. Okay. So the confusion started coming in about what's willingness to pay here, what's the price. So let's again assume that buyers can tell good cars from bad cars, right? So if they can tell good cars from bad cars, buyers in the lemons market are willing to pay 1,000. So you can call this demand if you want. So equilibrium is where demand equals supply. Right? So if you can tell the difference, the equilibrium quantity is 1,000, and equilibrium price is 1,000. Right? Sellers of lemons go home with how much in surplus here? They're getting $1,000 per unit, right? They're willing to accept $750. You can think of that as the marginal cost in some sense. So they're walking home with this area here in profits. It's like, I would have accepted $750, but they're willing to pay $1,000, so I'm walking home with $250 times 1,000 individuals, $250,000 in social surplus, right? So what happens at the $2,000 price in the good cars market? So this is $1,250, $1,500, here's $2,000. Equilibrium also is all good cars sell, right? So Q star is 1,000 and P star is 2,000. So sellers of good cars are selling these good cars for $2,000, only needing to accept $1,250, so they're getting a whole chunk of surplus here. They're getting 2,000 minus 1,250, 750 a car times 1,000, so there's $750,000 worth of surplus in the market for good cars here. So that's if you can tell good cars from bad cars. If you can't tell good cars from bad cars, what happens? The customers are saying, we're just paying a flat $1,500, right? Because I'm unsure there's a 50-50 chance that I'll get a good or a bad car. So the price they're willing to pay in the lemons market, lemons. It's a great, great movie if you haven't seen it. Okay? So the price they're willing to pay here is $1,500. I can't write 1,500 right next to it, but here you go. So equilibrium, again, is 1,000 units are sold of the lemons, 1,000 units are sold of the good cars, and the equilibrium price in both markets is $1,500. So isn't that exactly the same outcome as before? Well, yeah, the same number of cars sell. In both settings, 2,000 cars sell. But what's different here? Who likes this and who doesn't like this? Do sellers of crappy cars like this scenario? They love it, right? What do they get now? They get this area, right? They get $1,500 per car for this crappy car. So they're getting an additional $500,000 in surplus. How about the sellers of the good cars? They used to have this big area up here, and that's now lost, right? So this here is lost. So there's a transfer of surplus from the good car market to the market for lemons, right? Through this uncertainty, through this inability to tell good cars from bad. Well, you don't really care, right? If you're a heartless economist like me, all you care about is total welfare. I don't care whether the good car sellers, get more surplus or the bad car lemon sellers get more surplus. Overall, society is just as well off in both markets. Okay, here comes the last possible example. What if, right, supply didn't look like this, where the minimum willingness to accept for a good car is $1,250, but where the minimum willingness to accept is $1,750? Right, so now I'm going to use those stars and get super creative. You can tell I'm married to an artist. Actually, the only thing you can tell is that I have a kindergartner in the house because that's what my drawings look like. Right, but supply is no longer this curve that's this, I don't know what shape this is, but it's this sort of hook shape right here at $1,250, but the hook is now at $1,750. Right, so if we can differentiate good from bad cars as customers, still, 1,000 will sell in both settings because there's a $1,000 willingness to pay in the lemons market and a $2,000 willingness to pay in the good cars market. But now where we can't tell which car is which, what happens now? Customers are willing to pay $1,500, but in the lemons market, that's good enough, right? The lemons people are still willing to pay sell all their lemons at $1,500 because they only need to accept $750. But what happens in the good car market? Now the willingness to accept, meaning the minimum reservation price you need to pay sellers of good cars, is higher than the price that consumers are willing to pay. So what happens? You're just going to take your nice, high-quality Honda Civic and you're going to turn it into a flower pot in your backyard or something like that. You're not going to sell it, or you're just going to use it yourself, right? So what happens here now is that if this is the new reservation price, if reservation price is $1,750, how many cars sell? How many good quality cars sell? There's a new book out about the quest for the number 0. It looks exciting. I bought it today and I'm going to read it over the summer. But 0 is the right answer. None will sell, right? So Q triple star here is 0, right? The 1750, no new cars, not new, high quality cars sell. So what do we have? We have a market that has what in it only? It's a world of lemons, right? So this might work for the very first period here, but if we're thinking about a long-run equilibrium, do consumers figure this out, that there are no more good cars in the market? Yeah, they do, because if everybody who buys a used Honda Civic gets a crappy Honda Civic, right, what you're seeing is, either through experience or through places like, what's it called, Consumer Reports, right, I think that magazine is called, where they buy used cars and they check out how well they do, or Car and Driver does, and they just get crappy ratings because only crappy cars are on the road and prices drop. So once this happens here, it kills, asymmetric information kills the market for the high-quality good, and only leaves a market with the low-quality good, and the long-run equilibrium price, because there's only crappy cars around in the market, the customers update their beliefs or their knowledge about what the probability of getting a good car is to the true probability, which is 0, right? So what you're going to do is you're only going to be willing to pay $1,000 for the crappy car, and that'll be the equilibrium price, right? So asymmetric information, it's not just marginally bad, it can actually kill the market for the higher quality product and only let lower quality products out onto the market to be transacted. Is that a world we want to live in? No, right? We would like a mix of low quality and high quality things. Because if you're poor and you can't afford a lot, maybe you're happy with a low quality Honda Civic at a lower price. If you've got a little bit more money, you might be willing to pay for that reliability. So you want to have the choice between the two here. And asymmetric information could kill the market for a high quality product. I realize that this picture is crazy, right? But it's an awesome picture that describes something really important, which is there is huge value to information, right? If you're simply able to kill this informational asymmetry, what do you do? Well, if you're able to put stickers on these particular cars, even in the scenario where the reservation price is $1,750, the good cars will sell for $2,000. So there's $250,000 worth of surplus that's left out there because there's asymmetric information. So information has value in many, many settings, but the value of information is something well studied, and everybody thinks about, oh, it's just Yelp. Who cares about restaurant reviews? Who cares about, what grandma's experience at a certain burger joint was 3 weeks ago, and who reads this stuff? Well, actually, there's a huge amount, a huge value in information if you're thinking about how much surplus you get from the consumption of what type of products, what markets for what types of products it actually enables, and how people adjust their behavior when they learn about the quality attributes of certain goods. So there's all kinds of cool studies. I have a colleague, Michael Anderson, who's really interested in information, and he and another colleague of mine, Jeremy Magruder, nearly brought down the Berkeley Computer Network because they scraped every single OpenTable rating and every single Yelp review for all the restaurants, initially in San Francisco, but later nationwide, off their sites, and they looked at what happened to reservations when it's complicated to describe, but when ratings change. And they're really clever design right here to see how customers respond when there's a change in what kind of awesome experience you had according to Yelp ratings you gave. And you see that there's a pretty significant response in terms of customers making reservations at restaurants according to quality ratings on other sites. So Yelp and OpenTable used to be separate. I don't know if they're still separate, but it is a beautiful paper. So people act, right? Bless you, bless you. One more? No? You're good? All right, that was cool. Well, you weren't happy about it, but that was a record. I've managed 5 sneezes in a row in this allergy season so far. Sorry, I shouldn't single you out. Please don't take it personally. But I can't say enough how, Grandma at the Thanksgiving table always whines about all these startups and they don't produce anything. In the old days, we used to produce things that had value, like cars and buildings and tools. True, a lot of that's produced elsewhere now, but there is tremendous value in the generation of information and affecting humans' well-being, because we don't just consume goods, we consume services, and the quality of the services we consume is really important to us. So Uber, right? What happens? After you're done Ubering, you have no money for Uber. I have money for Uber. I took one of these big limos the other day by mistake because I had the slider on the wrong setting. I was like, wow, is the president pulling up here? Oh, no, that's for me. Hey, how you doing, guy? Paid an insane amount to get to the airport, but that's a different story. I rate the driver, but it turns out the driver rates me, too, right? So I can then, once Uber sends me a driver, I look at the driver's rating. If the driver's rating is low, I can sort of kick him to the curb or her to the curb and pick a new one. But the drivers also figure out whether they want to pick you up, right? So because it affects the probability of you actually being when you're supposed to be there, it minimizes the sort of cost of transaction for them to actually get a fare. So push back on grandma, right? There's huge value to information, and all these startups that give you information actually generate a tremendous amount of surplus, some more than others, all right? So I don't know if Minecraft really generates a tremendous amount of surplus, but that's a story to be had on another day. Okay, questions about this stuff? Otherwise, we're going to get to my favorite model in economics, right? I do this to the grad students too. Like, this is my favorite part of econometrics, which is externalities, right? Externalities are awesome. In the sense of studying them is really, really interesting, but they create all kinds of issues in real life. So I'm happy to talk about externalities for as long as you want, right? You want to come over to my house, we can sit in the back, drink iced tea, and I'll talk to you about externalities. I have a neighbor with a really noisy lawnmower. So the definition of an externality is a cost or benefit arising from an activity which does not accrue to the person or organization carrying out the activity. That makes no sense to me. Well, you're smarter than I am, so it probably does to you. But the way I think about this is that from a consumer point of view, my well-being is somehow physically linked to actions by others. Those others could be other individuals, they could be firms, but there's something that you do or that a firm does that somehow affects my well-being. It could make me happier, something that you do, right? If you started singing a pretty song right now, I'd probably be happier. If you started lighting up cigarettes right now, I'd be unhappier, right? And I would kick you out and sue you, but that's a different story. So the well-being of a consumer or production capability of a firm are directly affected by actions of other consumers or firms rather than indirectly through prices. So the way we've thought about, actions by one person affecting other people, we've thought about this in this general equilibrium setting where markets are somehow linked through prices, and what happens from a price change in one market and how that affects another market is something we've thought about. But this is deeper here. There's a real physical relationship through real-world 3D stuff, nothing artificial like prices, that links the well-being of one consumer to that of another, or the ability of a firm to produce, right, production technology of one firm through actions of another firm. So let's think about that for a second. There are lots and lots of types of externalities. Externalities can be so-called positive externalities. They could also be negative externalities. So externalities can either help you or they can harm you. An externality that harms someone is a negative externality. So let me give you my favorite example. When I was in college 100 years ago, stereos came out, and my neighbor, we were really good friends now, but when I first met the guy, I was like, this is going to be a tough year. Loved this particular singer. I arrived from Germany. I had long hair and a beard and was wearing a leather jacket. I was smoking. I was like the typical sort of German pre-hipster type. Wasn't very hipster. I was just German. But I was listening to like really dark music, and everything was just really dark. And this guy next to me liked these Vietnamese pop songs, and I had never heard anything like it. I actually kind of like them now, but I'd never heard anything like it. And he would listen to them so loud, right? I was trying to study math, and there's Vietnamese pop songs playing next door at top volume, and then he started singing with the Vietnamese pop songs. So the issue here is that his singing of what I now consider to be beautiful music, then I didn't, affected my ability to concentrate and probably cost me 2 points on my math exam the next day. So there was a relationship between his activity that affected my well-being in terms of my ability to do math. So that's just an example on the consumer side, right? We've already been through